So I have needed to do a post about collaborate. And I struggle with words to describe what we did. And if you know me, misdisplaying for words is a very unique phenomenon. Um, I even put a test, I put a challenge to the team and said, guys, if you were to use a word, what would you use to describe this? And all the words, this is just real talk, all the words that we came up with would not resonate with our audience. The word I kept thinking of was magic. I wouldn't go to an event that's like, it's magic. That would not do it for me. It's really hard to put into words what we did at Collaborate last weekend. It's really hard to encompass the mix of getting the right people in the room, this heavily curated group of people that care just as much about the person standing next to them's goals as they do their own. There's not a lot of rooms where people will advocate for us, which rooms where people will lock arms and they want to be a part of what you're doing. They want to support what you're doing. There's not nearly enough spaces that we're in where that happens, which is really unfortunate. We set out to help each other grow their businesses and manage our mindset, and we do that. But it's so much more than that, because what I can tell you from experience is people are profoundly lonely, whether it's you're in a leadership position in corporate America, whether you're running your own business, whether you're running your family. It is very lonely. That's partially just simply we're not having the real conversations. We are not connecting with people on such a deep level where we understand what people are really struggling with. Instead, it's we might sit in a conference room and go, well, we're struggling with revenue. Give me 5 ideas on how to increase our revenue, dot, dot, dot. But what we're not saying is my business is taking so much of me that I leave the office at 8 o'clock every night. And I've got problems with my spouse because of that. I'm not seeing my kids nearly enough. There was a client that I worked with. This has happened many times, but one in particular, he said, I work 6 days a week. And if I don't figure out how to get that to five, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my family. Like those are the real conversations that we need to have. The other thing, we talk about this on the podcast all the time, is being honest about the way that we self sabotage. Where are we showing up in spaces where we can be honest about, first, that we don't have all the answers figured out, but second, like, hey, I self-sabotage, I procrastinate, every entrepreneur knows their best idea because it was their most recent idea. We fall in love with our last idea for product or services, and it's hard to stay consistent with the one that maybe isn't as shiny as anymore. Maybe it's not as sexy. Maybe it's, well, I've hit some bumps in the road, or I'm not really sure who I developed this for. I'm not really sure the marketplace I can sell to. And then suddenly we're not doing the thing that we need to do to actually bring revenue in the door. We want to chase something else. It takes courage to admit that that's one of the ways we self-sabotage. Maybe it's that we believe an old narrative that maybe was given to us from our childhood, where I've done enough for someone like me. I've achieved enough for someone like me, someone with the background that I had that doesn't have the formal education or has the wrong degree. We've all got these pre-rehearsed stories of I'm too young, I'm too old. There's not a lot of spaces that we get to have those conversations. There's not a lot of spaces where you could say, hey, I struggle with anxiety. Earlier, I had to step out because I was really struggling with anxiety. And then all these other hands go up and say, me too. I thought it was just me. When I think about running the Collaborate Mastermind, it is so much more than scaling up someone's business. It's so much more about helping someone be more productive. There are other places where you might be able to do that. We do that, yes, but what I've been told over and over again by people that go to Collaborate, what I've experienced firsthand with my own eyes, is that rarely do people have a space where they show up and can be as real and as authentic and drop all the armor, because heavy is the head that wears the crown. We got a lot of pressure on us. So we're like, okay, I've got to have the answers. I've got to project an image of success at all times or confidence. And where are the spaces where we get to be real? That was Collaborate last weekend. I struggle still to put into words the conversations that I saw happen. I the very first night we had one of the gals talk about how she wants to speak, but she gets in her head about her accent and she worries that people will understand her. And then she saw five other hands go up. Oh my gosh, I'm worried about my accent too. I'm worried about my accent too. And What was interesting is to, someone who doesn't have that concern, someone like me, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them and going, but I can understand you perfectly. Or your accent is endearing or cool or exotic but for them it was, I have this message I want to get out there. But I have this reason that I think will exclude me from doing the work I meant to do. And whether it's about your accent, whether it's about the lack of financial resources, whether it's a degree or because I'm female or because I haven't been in roles like this before, it doesn't matter what it is. This was a space where people got to say, here's why I thought I was excluded. Here's why I thought this wasn't available to someone like me. Here's why I thought this thing I really wanted, maybe even this thing I've been working towards, at the end of the day, there was always this little bit of gap. I got to just so far and I never quite got the thing I wanted to. And now, after this weekend, I think I know why. Most importantly, I know what to do about it. Many of these people were strangers. Many of these people didn't know each other's stories, and they came together and formed this band of amazing, awesome humans that really got to have conversations that people can sit next to you for 10 years in your office and they never really know you. How many times have we known someone who is immensely struggling, maybe someone who's struggling with depression, and then you go, I had no idea. I had no idea that they had so much weighing on them. I wish they would have told me. See, we've built a world where that's not okay, where we don't get to say ouch when it hurts, and we can change that. Just because it's always been this way doesn't mean it needs to be that way going forward. And collaborate is that shift. Collaborate is the beginning of the shift for people that want to have honest conversations. They want to build businesses. They want to give back. They want to do amazing things, but they need to do it. They want to do it in a place where they can actually lock arms, have battle buddies with people that care about them, all of them, not just the shiny parts, not just the highlight reels we put on social media, but they know, hey, I struggle with alcohol. Hey, I have a history of abuse and I am in recovery for 15 years and I'm afraid people will find out about this. Hey, this is my business, but I've had two failed businesses before. I'm always afraid the bank is going to pull my credit and that's going to come to haunt me. It doesn't matter. There was one gal who had been through two divorces and she said, I have a lot of shame about that. Little did she know she was talking to another woman who had also been through two divorces and now was in the most perfect, beautiful, ideal marriage. Just by them having that conversation, the other person said, wow, this thing about me, this chapter of my book I never read out loud, I was afraid to let people know. And now someone that I admire, someone whose relationship I admire, I now know they've walked a similar journey to me. Collaborate is the highlight of my professional career. And I've done a lot of things in my professional career, but when I look at this last weekend, it is the highlight. It is the amalgamation of everything I've done from a professional standpoint, but also my humanitarian work. It is very much similar to like a Habitat for Humanity build. The second I see everybody with pillows sitting on a floor with food in the center and everybody's talking about their lives, I was like, this feels like we're sitting in a hostel in Colombia. This feels like we're out, we've taken over this guest house and we're having these conversations about life and how sometimes it doesn't turn out the way we think and how can we still enjoy the ride even when it's not the way we expected. My in-person event was unbelievable, beyond expectations. It's not just for someone who wants to scale a business. Yes, it's that. It's that someone has business objectives, but it's also someone who has personal objectives. It's mostly for someone that I need to achieve this next level. I know I've got it in me, but I've got to do it to inspire others. I've got to do it so I can give back to others. Someone asked me recently, for what really pisses you off, what really gets you upset? And I said, when I watch good people needlessly suffer, when I watch people stumble around in the dark. And that's how I got into business advising. But I realized it was so much more than that. I hated people not knowing what the next step was, that they had this calling, this drive, and they weren't sure how to do that. But now I realize it's so much more than just business advising. It's just life. I wanted to be the mentor I never had. And I get to do that to this day. But when I look at Collaborate, I see that there is a ton of mentors in the room. people so willing to share their expertise and their knowledge, and they have no dog in the fight. There is no agenda. There's no, I'm going to help you just so you help me. It's not, I'm going to help you so we can do business together. It is legitimately great people doing great things together. And that is the first pillar of my consulting company, doing great things with great people. So when I look back at Collaborate, I'm still in awe. I have actually, um, one of my team said yesterday, you had that starry eyed look in your eye. And it was very similar to what you had last year after Collaborate. And I said, it's when you get to watch your legacy playing out. It's when the work that you were meant to do so beautifully aligns. And you set all these entrepreneurs on fire. They're out there creating amazing things. There are people that are running nonprofits that were in the room that are out there creating amazing things, and they needed a place both for the skill set to take that to the next level, but the mindset and even I would say the healing that takes place in an environment like that. We'll release videos of Collaborate. We our team's already put together some mashups. There'll be videos. We had this amazing team for AV that was there, and we're amazing photographers and videographers, and we're going to get their footage. But I stand here today at such. Actually, I'm sitting. I sit here today with such peace, knowing that I just played out. I just worked in my genius zone, in my gifting. This was my legacy, and we'll keep doing it. We're going to do it next year. We already have the date um, marked in September next year. We're going to do it in the same location, this amazing, beautiful location. I'm so glad we've got this. So grateful for this amazing location. Um, if you don't have a place like that, find one. If you don't have a place where you can be real, you can be honest, both honest about your strengths and the awesome things you're doing, but also about your fears and the weaknesses and the way that you need to staff for weaknesses, the way that you procrastinate, the way that you self-sabotage. If you don't have a space like that, my God, create it. It doesn't have to be with me. It doesn't have to be a Collaborate. It doesn't have to be with Pivot Me Academy. We'd love to have you if you're a fit, and if we're a fit for you. But ultimately, just find safe place, safe person where you can be each other's accountability, where you can have these conversations. If you think that you are the only one struggling, you have told yourself a lie. And the worst part about it is that by you not sharing it, someone else out there is telling themselves the same lie. Please connect. We need this. We need to bring people together, not just for building businesses, but for building our lives and showing up better for our families and for our communities. Thanks so much.